If you have a democratic republic whose government is not acting on behalf of the citizens, you don't have a legitimate government. That's grounds for overthrowing the government, actually. And you can't be truly loyal to two countries because sometimes their interests intersect, but very often they diverge, and you have to pick one. America first. You can have only one true allegiance, and it needs to be to the United States.
Tucker Carlson portrays America first as the cornerstone idea behind MAGA, and yet so much of policy that's formulated and put into place from the Washington establishment seems to favor Israel, Ukraine, and Saudi Arabia first. How can this be reconciled in an administration that campaigned on the America First mantra? Well, Tucker tries to do it here. Let's see what he has to say. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
What is the first pillar of MAGA? Well, of course, it's America first. Here's Donald Trump before he got the nomination for president, and I think in the spring of 2016, explaining what America first means. Here he is.
My foreign policy will always put the interests of the American people and American security above all else. Has to be first. Has to be. That will be the foundation of every single decision that I will make. America, thank you. America first will be the major and overriding theme of my administration.
April 27th, 2016. At the time, Donald Trump had been elected to nothing. He'd not even officially secured the nomination. Ted Cruz was still running against him until the Indiana primary the next month. He was still just a candidate, totally unproven. But the central theme of the next 10 years of his political life and of the country's political life is right there in that clip, America first. The purpose and duty of the American government is to represent the United States of America. Another way to put it would be the duty of the U.S. government is to make good on the core promise of democracy, which is that the country operates on behalf of its owners, the citizens of that country. It would seem very obvious. Of course, Trump was attacked for it immediately. He was called an anti-Semite. You may not remember this, but he was, because he used a phrase that Charles Lindbergh, who was, by the way, not an anti-Semite, but who did oppose American entry into World War II, along with tens of millions of other Americans, used very often. The America First movement was the American movement of the late 1930s, early 1940s, pushing the Roosevelt administration away from joining a war in Europe. It doesn't mean they were pro-Nazi. Many of them were very anti-Nazi, but they didn't think the United States had a role in that war, and they said it. And probably the most famous living American at the time, Charles Lindbergh, who in 1927 flew across the Atlantic Ocean solo, truly a hero, was the leader of this movement.
He sure was, and America First is great rhetoric. Actually, that kind of rhetoric that we saw in that Trump clip, that is what won so many Americans over to Trump. That wasn't the rhetoric of the neocons. The neocons' rhetoric was export democracy throughout the world. But it's just rhetoric, and that's the issue. It doesn't conform with Trump's decision-making in office, and that's true about his first term and his second term. It's clear that this administration, he's not alone in this, Biden, Bush, Obama too, favor an Israel first policy, a Ukraine first policy in regard to Trump and Biden, a Saudi Arabia first policy in regard to Obama forward. Having a blockade in Yemen on behalf of the Saudis. The Houthis don't threaten the United States whatsoever. Trump ramped up troop presence in Syria. Why? Because Israel wanted Assad overthrown. And guess who they were willing to support, and the U.S. government was willing to support in Operation Timber Sycamore to do that? Al-Qaeda. That's why the current leader in Syria is Al-Qaeda. His name's al-Shara. That's why the U.S. has dumped $200 billion into Ukraine. That's why the U.S. bankrolls the genocide in Gaza, and nothing that Israel does, including killing over 100,000 people and bombing another U.S. ally like Qatar, changes anything. They still get aid, so it's just hollow rhetoric. It's not put into practice. Even if it's great thematically, we don't see that manifest in policy, and that's the big issue here.
And of course, history being what it is, rewritten by the victors, he has been slandered ever since as some sort of hater or pro-Hitler, anti-Semite or something. He was none of the above.
He wasn't, and that's dumb criticism of Trump. That's the least common denominator criticism of Trump. If you want to expose him for this, expose him because he's a hypocrite. He doesn't believe in America first. He considers Netanyahu's best buddy, who he pleads with to get a pardon from the Knesset. He won't take away or even use U.S. leverage to stop aid to Israel. No matter what, Israel could bomb Japan tomorrow, and I still think that aid would keep flowing. That's how tight this relationship is. Americans are waking up to it now, thankfully, more and more each day.
But the point is, when Trump used the phrase America first, he was attacked as some sort of deviant, moral deviant. But the idea itself was so self-evidently true, like obvious, that for a lot of people, even non-Republicans, a light bulb went off. Wait a second. You mean the government doesn't operate on that principle? We always assumed that our government, which we pay for, which does everything it does in our name, the country that we were born in, that our ancestors built, we assumed they were always acting on our behalf, that every decision was made through the lens, is this good for the United States or not? And it took Donald Trump's entry from real estate into politics in 2015 to awaken the rest of the country that actually no. Many decisions, some of the biggest decisions the U.S. government makes, have no reference point at all in American interest. They just don't care whether it's good for the United States. Well, that's not only inherently anti-democratic, it's illegitimate. That's not a legitimate government. If you have a democratic republic whose government is not acting on behalf of the citizens, you don't have a legitimate government. That's grounds for overthrowing the government, actually.
That's exactly right. And that's what the Declaration of Independence says, is that when any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, that is, providing life, liberty, or property to its inhabitants, the people have the right to alter or abolish it. That's what Jefferson wrote in the Declaration, and that is true. But again, the problem is not the idea. The idea is great. America First should be so self-evident. And there were dissidents before Trump that awoke to this idea. You know, seeing so much money go overseas in the form of foreign aid and creating these stupid entangling alliances that have never paid dividends for Americans. But I think it's true. You have to give Trump some credit for spreading that idea, that powerful force amongst the populace at large. You know, before that, it was a subset of people like Dennis Kucinich and Ron Paul that were talking about this, right? On both sides of the political aisle, you know, anti-establishment people within their respective parties. But at the same time, again, it's only an idea if it's never put into practice. And it's not being put into practice. Who is Trump dragging the most now? It's not AOC, it's Thomas Massie. Why? Because he is America First in regard to foreign policy. He doesn't want to put up with these stupid military operations. Trump just announced today they're going to do more bombings outside of the United States. There's flirtation with regime change in Venezuela, keep the money flowing into Ukraine, keep the blockade going in Yemen. This isn't America First. America isn't threatened by any of these countries, but they still want to funnel billions and billions of dollars to the military-industrial complex. That's the problem.
So people were shocked by this, and Trump was attacked. But of course, you know the rest. He went on to win the nomination and the presidency that year, really on the basis of that idea. America first. You can have only one true allegiance, and it needs to be to the United States. You can't have dual citizenship because you can't have dual loyalty. In the same way that polygamy, for whatever its benefits, doesn't work very well in the long run, because you can't be truly loyal to two wives. Sorry. And you can't be truly loyal to two countries because sometimes their interests intersect, but very often they diverge, and you have to pick one because there's a fork in the road and you can only take one path. And it has to be the path that serves the country that you live in, and that's the United States of America, America first. So that's the first principle of MAGA. And every decision that this ruling coalition makes has to be made through the lens of America first, period.
Well, hey, I'm with him on that. And, you know, he gives Trump great credit for, you know, starting this idea, popularizing it, making it a centerpiece of his campaign. But again, it's just a campaign. It's just rhetoric. So many of the best promises of this administration haven't been put into place, either in the first term or in the second term. And in the second term, after the deep state and the FBI tried to frame him for treason for specious reasons. The farcical Russiagate hoax, when Trump was even slapping sanctions on Russia, giving Ukraine offensive weapons. condemning Russia for giving Snowden safe haven and unilaterally withdrawing from the INF Treaty. They still said he was collaborating with Putin at that time, and that's what swept across the airwaves and legacy media for 2 to 3 years. Even after that, he still seems to side with the deep state and its Israel first, Ukraine first, Saudi Arabia first, foreign aid first policies in every regard. He makes excuses for it. Some of his most devout adherents make excuses for it. And listen, Tucker Carlson is great at levying criticisms about these individual issues. He's had big problems with the Trump administration and how they bombed Iran, and he had a lot of problems with the cover-up of the Epstein scandal. He has a lot of problems with this Israel first mentality. He will say those things individually, but it doesn't seem like he's ever just directly holding Trump accountable for it. That Trump is part of this monster too. The monster is not a force outside of Trump. Trump is subsumed by the monster. And that seems to be the case. And I'm not trying to just be so hard on Trump. He is the sitting president, and it is most pertinent now to critique him, given that he's in the seat of the executive branch. But this is a problem that spans administration to administration to administration. So if it sounds like I'm harsh on Trump, maybe I am, but we have to make this relative when it comes to this being a systematic issue. It's not an issue of Trump or Obama or Biden. We still get the same policies no matter what. As my good friend Tom Woods likes to say, no matter who you vote for, you always get John McCain. He popularized that quote. And man, is that true? Because Republicans campaign like they're Ron Paul and then they govern like they're John McCain. That's exactly what happens. And Trump is a symptom of that. He's not the disease. The disease is the corrupt Washington establishment, where the main lobbies, the main centers of power, and the deep state remain regardless of the electoral outcomes. The deep state remains the same regardless of the names. That's just true. And unless you abolish it, unless you take a hacksaw to these criminal government agencies like the CIA and FBI and NSA, we don't need them. We never needed them. They serve a purpose that's perverted. It's violative of our natural rights. It's violative of our civil rights. We don't need the TSA to shred the Fourth Amendment to have safety and security in this country. We lack safety and security in this country because our government is barbaric, and they force the iron hand of government toward us, trying to convince us that all our threats are external when it's them seizing half of our wealth, perverting our basic rights, killing people overseas in the name of democracy, and leading to just trillions of dollars in debt. We just crossed the $38 trillion debt threshold, and inflation, all to support that. But I do want to hear from you. Do you agree with Tucker Carlson here? How can the best rhetoric of Trump when it comes to America first be reconciled with Trump's actual actions and actual policies? Let me know in the comments down below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, also subscribe to Tucker. Appreciate this discussion. Wish Tucker would be a little bit more heavy-handed on Trump, but the rhetoric is good. These are important ideas regardless. If you like this video, please consider becoming a YouTube member. If you click the join button below, you can do that. Help support the channel. I'll graciously appreciate that if you do that. And in return, I'll give you access to all my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. Also, if you'd like a free digital copy of my first book, Compact of the Republic, it's my defense of decentralized governance and my explanation of how the United States went from that to being a centralized world empire. Just click the link below on my website to get that, free of charge, no obligation. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.